Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome here to the Launchpad, or maybe good morning or evening, depending where you're joining us from. Welcome to another live launch coverage right here on TLP Network. Today, you're joining us for the launch, the third ever resupply mission for the China National Space Administration, launching a resupply mission up to the Tiangong 3 space station. I'm going to say it right off the bat. I'm probably going to say some things wrong today, and I apologize for that, but we're going to do our best. But on your screen now, you're looking at a live view of Launch Complex 201 at the Wenchang Satellite Launch Center in Hainan Island in China, and you're looking at a Long March 7. We just saw that top door kind of open. The Long March 7 gets fully enclosed and has been getting fueled for the last few hours. Fueling now complete, and they are ready for launch. The Long March 7 is able to carry up to 6,500 kilograms or 14,300 pounds of cargo, and their target today, of course, is the Tiangong space station, which is currently in a low Earth orbit at 370 kilometers, and they're going to be launching at an inclination of 41 degrees. Of course, the Long March 7 is not a reusable rocket. It is going to be crashing down, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. This is the fourth launch of the Tianzhou spacecraft, the eighth mission of the Long March 7 rocket, and the 51st orbital launch attempt of any agency globally in 2022. And as we said, this is the third time they're going to resupply their space station. This resupply mission is to get them ready to welcome their Shenzhou 14 crew, who are expected to arrive in June. Today's module will attach itself to the aft docking port of the station. The Tianzhou, which means heavenly boat, is an automated cargo craft which will function as the main resupply vehicle for the Tiangong space station. The spacecraft was developed from China's first prototype space station, also called Tiangong. The first Tianzhou spacecraft, the Tianzhou 1, launched on a Long March 7 in April 2017. Because it's China, as always, we don't know all that much about what's on board here today, but they are aiming to build this larger space station across 11 launches from 2021 to 2022, which would include 3 module launches, 4 cargo spacecraft, and 4 crewed missions. The station will be comprised of 3 modules, though it has the ability to expand to 6, and it is expected to be operational for at least the next decade. As always, we're here answering your questions live. We're coming down to T-minus 30 minutes and counting. We are keeping a live view on the footage that we have. There is a second view that we sort of have from China. It's very limited on what we actually do normally get from these footages, but there's a close-up view of the Long March 7 with their fairing there, preparing for liftoff here today. If you guys have questions, as always, we're going to be answering those in the chat. You can tag us with @TheLaunchpad, and we will be answering those live.
joining us live at the Wenchang. So the countdown has begun. How are things going over there? I couldn't see it. I can't see anything. So the countdown has begun. How are things going over there?
Well, yes, Dongning, the weather is pretty good now. It's the final preparation before the launch of the Tianzhou 4 cargo spacecraft. And all systems at the Wenchang spacecraft launch site are closely monitoring the condition of the carrier rocket and the ground temperature and humidity and wind speed. And according to the launch site, despite the fact it's in the rain season here in Wenchang, the weather condition is pretty good, and it's a good launch window for Tianzhou 4 cargo ship. We participated in the vertical transportation of the combination of the spacecraft and also the Tianzhou cargo ship on April the day before yesterday. We also see the social media posted from the beach, not far away from the site where people are waiting to see the moment of the launch in the distance here. The pictures they show on the social media about the stars and the sky and the thin cloud. And we're now standing on the launch tower of the command and control center at the site. We can see the launch tower is a combination of the rocket and the Tianzhou cargo ship. It's a little bit cloudy, but this feeling is pretty good, amazing. And the launch tower is glimmering in the distance. Almost an hour ago, China's manned space agency announced that Long March 7 Wi-Fi carrier rocket finished refilling and is expected to be launched about half an hour later. Because the time is different from the previous Tianzhou 3 cargo ship, which launched from here in the early afternoon last September. Here in Wenchang, the time is quite the opposite. So at this moment, the personnel at the site are devoted and they are standing by for the launch time. And this resupply mission for the core module of Tiangong is the first of 6 missions to complete in China's Tiangong space station by the end of the year. We send our best wish for the launch and the future Chinese space station. Back to you, Dongning.
Indeed, hope everything goes well. You mentioned the weather is very good for the launch. How about today's weather exactly? Is it a clear day? Because it's quite dark behind you. You can't see the weather there really.
Yes, allow me to explain. We actually arrived here almost a week ago. That time it was raining heavily, but gradually the weather is changing for good. So at this moment, you may not see clearly about the distance of launch tower, but the weather is pretty good. And the local temperature is about 26 degrees Celsius. And we're now heard from the personnel at the site. The launch tower, the 3 tiers of the protecting the window is gradually opening. So I guess in about 25 minutes, the launch tower will fully open and the launch itself will begin. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Zheng Yibing, reporting from Wenchang, the launch site of Tianzhou 4 in Hainan province in southern China. Well, China expects to complete 6 major missions this year as it builds its own space station, and 4 of the launches will take place at the Wenchang site in southern Hainan province. One of the mission planners tells us about the preparations.
Now, the whole launch site is busy with multiple missions, particularly the 4 missions to be conducted here for completing China's space station. Therefore, our personnel are working full-time, and they are working hard and taking extra shifts. And the launch site has very high standards on preventing 3 types of errors. There are errors in command, operation, and direction. In this regard, we build up training platforms to solve these problems. Relevant staff can only go to their posts through pre-training in relevant operation and methods learning. There are 2 types of training methods that the launch site particularly emphasizes on. They are preveal and reveal. With these, our staff can begin to conduct missions. From the perspective of security, the launch site covers a very big area with complicated working systems. So we face difficulties in finding leaks, troubleshooting, and keeping order. We did checks in specified areas and technical security. Now everything goes smoothly, and we have laid a good foundation for the following missions. We spent a great amount of time on the job. It's normal to see many colleagues working from early morning until late at night. They're doing nameless jobs. It's because of their hard work that the whole system is moving forward in good order. We're confident about the following construction and development of Wenchang spacecraft launch site. We'll have to go through difficulties, but we believe that this place will truly help realize China's dream of exploring the space.
All right, we are now joined in the studio by Professor Yang Yuguang from the China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. Professor Yang, welcome to our special coverage. Well, our reporter just mentioned that Tianzhou 3 was launched in an afternoon, and now Tianzhou 4 is going to be launched at midnight Beijing time. Why the difference in timing?
Well, good morning, Dongning. You see that the basic requirement for a spacecraft to rendezvous and dock with the China's Tianzhou space station, the most important thing is they enter the same orbital plane. You see that that the orbital plane is relatively stable in the 3D dimension, but you know that the launch site is rotating with the Earth. So every day we don't have other choices but to when the launch site is rotate with the Earth and enters the orbital plane of the Tianzhou space station. Only at this moment we can launch the Tianzhou 4 cargo ship. So this is a basic requirement, and also because of the features of the Earth's orbital dynamics, also the moment when the launch site passing through the orbital plane is different every day. So you can see someday we can see the launch in the afternoon, or someday like today in the morning, very early.
Right, and the Tianzhou 4 cargo spacecraft is reportedly to be very similar in design to its sister Tianzhou 3. As far as we know, the length of Tianzhou 4 is 10.6 meters long and 14.9 meters wide. Of course, it is when the solar panel is fully extended. How different is Tianzhou 4 from Tianzhou 3 or even Tianzhou 2?
Well, you see that with the successful 3 missions before, the Tianzhou cargo ship and the related technologies is already very practical. But the role of the different Tianzhou spaceships are really different. You see that the basic configuration or the technical specifications of the Tianzhou 1 and the Tianzhou 2 are very similar. But the Tianzhou 3 and the Tianzhou 4 are similar. So the Tianzhou 1 and 2 are having, both of them have 8 containers in their service module for storing the propellants. Well, for the Tianzhou 3 and the Tianzhou 4, both have only 4 fuel tanks, not like the Tianzhou 1 and the Tianzhou 2. Because you know that for the Tianzhou 1 and the Tianzhou 2, the major role of these vehicles not only provide supplies to the Tiangong 2 space laboratory or to the Tianhe 1 core module, but also to test the key technologies. For instance, the Tianzhou 2 plays a very important role in the technology verification phase. It also has the adapter to be grabbed by the robotic arm and test the technologies of repositioning from the front docking port to the side putting port, and also testing the technology of remote controlled manual docking for the future. So, it also has these purposes. But today, the Tianzhou 4, the major role of this spacecraft is providing the resupplies for the Shenzhou 14 crew. So today, according to the report, we have 5 tons of resupplies for the Shenzhou 14 crew, and also additionally 1 ton of propellants, much less than the Tianzhou 2, because you know that based on the former missions, the Tiangong space station has sufficient propellant at current stage. So this time we reduce the resupply of propellants, but add other resupplies for the coming missions.
So it's more precisely designed in terms of space and carrying capabilities. And the rocket that is going to carry Tianzhou 4, the Long March 7 Y5, has been specially designed for Tianzhou 4 cargo ship. How special is it?
Well, you know that the Tianzhou spaceship is the most effective cargo ship in the world today. It only has a total mass about 13 to 13.5 tons, but the resupply can brought up to 6.9 tons to the space station. And the initial requirement to the launch vehicle Long March 7 is to launch spacecraft to the inclined orbit, similar as like the Tiangong space station, with inclination about
Professor Yang,
41 to 42 degrees. Okay.
I have to leave you there for a while because it's a 15 minutes countdown for the launch, and we're going to continue to observe the whole launch process. Professor Yang, you just mentioned the rocket, Long March 7 Y5, how special it is, and about the mission of Shenzhou 4. The main mission, of course,
Yes.
is to carry cargo for the future crew to live in space. But how exactly different is the mission of Tianzhou 4 from the other three, the previous three?
Well, you know that as I have mentioned, the former three has the role of testing key technologies, but this Tianzhou 4 is the major role of this cargo ship is to support the construction of China's space station. So it not only brings the resupplies for the daily life of the three crew members of the Shenzhou 4 team to stay there for half a year, but also you know that those instruments, equipments for the connecting the three modules together to connect the Tianhe 1 and the Wentian, Mengtian, the three modules together. You mentioned that now it is T minus 15 minutes of the launch of the Long March 7. This time, we not only ensure the safety and also reliability of the combination of the cargo ship and the rocket, but also shortened the testing and the verification phase during the launch. So this time, it is more practical than before.
Mm-hmm. And I just saw from the picture that the local wind speed is 0, and the local
Yes.
temperature is about 25 degrees. Is it perfect? Is it perfect weather for the launch?
Well, yes, it is very good weather for the launch, but you see the Wenchang spacecraft launch site is very special in China. It is the only launch site near the sea. So the environment we also must consider about the influence of the sea. You know that the water vapor of the atmosphere near the Wenchang is much higher than the other three launch sites. So we must consider the influence. Moreover, you see that there are salt in the sea. So the water vapor also contains much salt. So this is also corrosive to the instruments and equipment on the rocket. So we must also consider about this influence. It must be well considered. But on the other hand, the position of the Wenchang spacecraft launch site is the most ideal one among the 4 launch sites of China. You see the latitude of the Wenchang Satellite Launch Center is only about 90 degrees to the north. So this is very ideal for launch spacecraft and to have the maximum capability of the launch vehicles. So this is also the reason we choose Wenchang as a launch site for China's future more heavy spacecraft.
Well, you mentioned, Professor Yang, that Wenchang is the idealist launching site among the 4 that China has right now. But the manned missions departed from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Why?
Well, there are multiple reasons. One of the reasons is that due to the historical reasons. You see that our China's manned space program started in the early 1990s. So at that moment, we haven't constructed our Wenchang Satellite Launch Center yet. So at that moment, the most ideal one to launch a manned spacecraft is the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, because you know that it is in the northwest of China. So during the launch, the trajectory on the ground is along the North China. Most places are not very heavily populated, so it is very ideal. And moreover, you see that in emergency cases, the astronaut can land it on the land of China, so we don't need a very huge rescue fleet. But in the future, it is also possible. You know that China, you may also heard from the media that China is planning to have its potential human missions to the moon. So in the future, human missions to the moon, we need more powerful launch vehicles. So in the future, the China Manned Space Agency has released the next generation manned spacecraft. So this probably this will be launched in the Wenchang spacecraft launch center because it will be even much larger than the biggest launch vehicle of China, currently speaking, Long March 5.
All right, Professor, we'll be getting back to you for more analysis and also introductions of the whole launch process. Now, construction of the China space station is scheduled for completion later this year, and CGTN's Yu Yang and Zheng Yibing look at what's left to be done.
China's space station, or Tiangong, is being built in low Earth orbit. Once completed, it will consist of 3 modules with a combined weight of over 180 tons. It has design lifespan of 10 years, with a capacity of 3 crew members for long-term stay. In this April, 3 astronauts returned safely to Earth aboard the Shenzhou 13 after over 5 months in orbit. Zhai Zhigang, Wang Yaping and Ye Guangfu were all in good physical and mental shape after landing.
The success of the Shenzhou 13 mission marks the completion of the technology verification phase, which included 6 deliveries. One of these was a core module, which will become the space station's living quarters, and 2 cargo ships were sent up to dock with the station.
6 more missions will complete the in-orbit construction of China's space station this year. Another cargo ship will be launched in May, and a month later, the Shenzhou 14 will carry 3 more astronauts to the core module, where they will stay for another 6 months.
A laboratory module called Wentian will dock with the core module in July. It would also be equipped with the same living facilities as the core module, so that the 2 together can support 6 astronauts living in space during rotation of crews.
The lab module to dock with the core module in October is Mengtian, marking the completion of the in-orbit construction period. At this point, a T-ship complex has been formed.
Another cargo ship and Shenzhou 15 manned mission will then follow, taking another 3 astronauts to stay in orbit for 6 months.
And the astronauts will perform extravehicular activities through a dedicated airlock module. It will also be the first time the station will have had 6 astronauts at the same time. They will be together for up to 10 days.
And Chinese authorities say the space station will hold many experiments from China and other countries. They say the space program will fulfill Chinese ambition to explore space and also be a place for international research and communication. Zheng Yibing,
Yu Yang, CGTN, Beijing.
All right, let's continue our discussion with Professor Yang Yuguang from the China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. Professor Yang, the Tianzhou 4 cargo spacecraft will carry supplies and propellants, as what you said, for not only the next manned mission to the space station, but also for the upcoming construction of 2 space science laboratories. That
Yes.
is going to be a lot of cargo. And does this mean the cargo ship will be loaded with more freight than previous supply missions?
Well, you know that the maximum capability of the Tianzhou cargo ship is about 6.9 tons, as I mentioned. But in different missions, you realize that the configuration and arrangement is different. As I have mentioned today, this time we have less propellants, but more kind of resupplies and also equipment for the construction. You see that the construction of China space station is not simply connect the 3 modules together, but also have other very complicated tasks. For instance, we must mount many instruments and equipments outside the not only the Tianhe core module, but also outside the Wentian and Mengtian module. That is the reason why the EVA technology is so important for us. And so we performed 4 EVAs during the Shenzhou 12 and the Shenzhou 14 missions. So this time, for the Shenzhou 14 crew, we will also have very, very important task performing EVA outside the station, not only outside the Tianhe one, but also outside the Wentian and the Mengtian module. Moreover, you see that the regenerative life support system, we have already tested this system very perfectly. But also, we need some resupplies of parts and also other things necessary for the operation of this kind of environmental control system.
Right, and now it's 6 minutes of a countdown of the launch of Tianzhou 4. And Professor, I can see the Tianzhou 4 and the rocket are ready at the launch pad, and some vapor coming out of the rocket. Where is the vapor coming from?
Well, you know that you can see that there are many white fogs released from the launch vehicle. So that is the vaporized liquid oxygen released from the fuel tanks. You see that, as you mentioned, it is T-minus 5 or 6 minutes before the launch. So at this moment, we will stop the refueling to the liquid oxygen tanks.
Right, and
so,
it's about
because,
5 minutes before the launch. And,
exactly.
And the staff there at the launch site are waiting. What are they waiting? What exactly are they doing before 5 minutes before the launch?
Well, in different stages, we have different tasks. For instance, you may heard of the commander ask every station, for instance, the radar station, the optical telescope station, and also other control systems to confirm that they are okay for the launch. So everything must be confirmed is okay. And also we have also some other checks on board the launch vehicle itself. So you can still see that although most of the rotation arms has already opened, but some still connected to the launch vehicle, still have the cables and also pipes connected to the launch vehicle. So we also have the instruments to monitor the status of the launch vehicle itself. And just before the launch, maybe 1 minute, T-minus 1 minute, we will cut off all the connections to the launch vehicle. And at this moment, the power supply and also control all depends on the onboard computer of the launch vehicle itself.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome here to the launch pad, or maybe good morning or evening, depending where you're joining us from. You are just in time to watch a rare live stream of a Chinese Space Administration launch, the Tianzhou 4, a Long March 7 rocket there on your screen, coming down to 3 minutes, 30 seconds until launch. Today, they're launching from Launch Complex 201 from the Wenchang Satellite Launch Complex. You can see there that the weather is looking good, and they are apparently still go for launch. They're launching up to the Tiangong Space Station in low Earth orbit at 370-kilometer orbit, or 230 miles at an inclination of 41 degrees. Long March 7, of course, is not a reusable rocket and will crash down into the ocean. This is the third ever resupply mission to the Tiangong 3 space station. There should be one more of these resupplies later this year. It's the fourth launch ever of the Tianzhou spacecraft and the eighth mission for the Long March 7, one of China's newer rockets, and we are already at the 51st orbital launch attempt of 2022. If you have questions, you can send those in the chat. We're going to be answering them live throughout today's launch. As we said, this is rare that we get to see this type of coverage from China, so we're not 100% sure on what we can count on, but we will bring it to you as best as we can. If you haven't yet, though, take a moment, hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out. We cover all the launches of all the agencies and countries, and we always are answering your questions. If you'd like to help support what we do, hit that join button, become a TLP member. But after the launch, join us over on our Discord, where we'll do kind of a post-show talk about today's launch and everything space. And make sure you follow us over on Twitter at TLPN_official, where we live tweet space events as it happens. If you're a regular here, you know what we do at T-minus 2 minutes. So let's see a go, no go in the chat. And we're going to listen back into the final 2 minutes as we count down until the launch of the Tianzhou 4, China's resupply mission to the Chinese space station.
That are used in propellant, and we all know that a reasonable and accurate amount of propellant is very decisive, very crucial for safe and economical journey. What factors should be taken into consideration?
T-minus 90 seconds.
Much propellant is needed. How to be prepared as precise as possible?
For example, for the refueling of the oxygen at this moment, we must very carefully prepared, as you mentioned. You see that the vaporization. Okay.
Okay, Professor, we are now seeing in the picture, I think you can see it now, the arms are beginning to detach from the rocket.
Yes.
It's just about 1 minute before the launch.
Yes,
T-minus 60 seconds. You can see there what we would call strong back retract for the Falcon 9. Those arms separating away. The rocket's fully fueled, pressurized, and ready to go. Coming down to T-minus 45 seconds.
The monitoring all kinds of parameters such as the power supply, the control, and also other parameters. And
T-minus 30 seconds.
30 seconds before the launch, and the commander just gave the orders.
the countdown.
Okay, about 15 seconds before the launch. It's I'm getting very thrilled. So it's a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the rocket is ignited and begins to
Yes, exactly.
fly into the sky and begins to leave the sweet home Earth.
So at 15 seconds after the liftoff, we will turn the direction, which is called pitch over.
So how long will Tianzhou 4 reach destination?
Well, about 8 to 10 minutes. It will reach the altitude about 200 kilometers high and its final orbit.
So according to the commander, that everything is going on very well now.
Yes, we can see the
T plus 20 seconds into flight. Everything looking good for the Long March 7, having launched from the Wenchang launch complex.
Yes, and the 4 boosters will be separated at about 170 seconds.
150 seconds till
You can hear
separation.
the voice of the ground staff reporting the telemetry data they received, and it goes very normal. Everything is okay.
And the fire is turning blue right now instead of
Exactly.
red.
It's a little bit cloudy in Wenchang, so we cannot see the trajectory from the ground now. But we can still see the video from the sent it from the camera mounted on the vehicle.
The camera from the rocket.
Yes. And also we can see the 3D animation.
So the process is going on.
We are 1 minute into flight, about 50 seconds away from seeing those boosters separate from the side of the Long March 7, carrying the Tianzhou 4 cargo craft to the Chinese space station, the third ever resupply mission having launched. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. Take us at the launch pad. We'll be answering those. We're waiting for booster separation of the Long March 7.
We can see the shape of the flames of the rocket engines is quite different because of the atmosphere is already, the density is very, very low.
The radar is going very well, and yeah, we're
Yes,
seeing
as we
some,
discussed.
yeah, since the signal is not that stable, but it's good enough. And we're seeing
Yes.
from the camera angle, from the angle of camera attached to the equipment cabin of Tianzhou 4. And you're now watching our
Yes.
special coverage on the launch of Tianzhou 4. And it has been launched
Booster
Great.
separation.
The boosters
several
have
minutes
already
before.
separated.
The rocket boosters are now being let go, as we can see.
Main MECO and first stage
Okay.
separation. Second
The first
stage
stage is
ignition.
separated at the moment about 3 minutes. And the next critical step will be the jettisoning of the payload fairing, the 4.2 meter wide payload fairing.
Are they? Are the boosters already detached from the main body of the
Yes,
rocket
it's-
already?
Yes, not only the 4 boosters, but also according to the voice of the commander, the first stage is also been already separated very
So
successfully.
they are applauding
So now
for
we
the
can-
success of the first stage detachment.
Yes, yes. So what you see is the second stage, the 4 engines.
Okay, she doesn't seem to know what she's talking about, so I'm going to jump in here. If you're just joining us, welcome here to the Tianzhou 4 live launch coverage. We have just had Booster separation followed by Miko, followed by first stage separation and the interstage sep. Second stage ignited very well 3 minutes into flight, and we have seen a successful fairing separation as well. The next thing we're going to be watching here is second stage coverage. We'll keep listening in because we do want to listen into their mission control, but it's China, so we never know what we're going to get from their coverage here, as they don't really do a lot of these. But they are on their way to their space station. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. Take a moment, share out the broadcast. It's pretty rare we get to see a China launch, so that really helps us out. And subscribe so you never miss another launch coverage of any of the space agencies, from small to big to China, even the occasional Russian one.
Continue working until they adjust the orbit, which is accurate enough for the Tianzhou 4 cargo ship.
So far, so good.
Exactly.
So we can see from the small picture there, the whole...
Yes, this is a 3D animation, but this animation is driven by the real date, which means that the position, the attitude, and also the condition of the engines is based on the real date received from the launch vehicle itself. So it is real.
It is real time. So
Yes.
the time
And
of
also,
flying is now 340, about 340 seconds already.
Well, you can also see the dash lines, which means the data link between the launch vehicle itself and also the ground station. We have multiple ground stations to monitor the status of the launch vehicle.
Great.
Okay, it's already about 6 minutes.
6 minutes already?
Yes.
So
the next step,
the flying angle is
next-
being automatically adjusted towards the destination.
yes. So the next step will be the shutdown of the 2 of the 4 engines of the second stage. Because these 2 engines are fixed, and the other 2 engines can change its direction for the attitude control, and also for the very precise trajectory adjustment.
So what's the significance of shedding all those engines?
Well, the shutdown of all engines means that the working of the launch vehicle is already completed, and if the orbit parameters is accurate enough, this will be means that the successful launch of the mission. So the launch itself will be a successful one.
When is the rocket entirely let go of the Tianzhou 4 capsule?
At the moment, when the Tianzhou cargo ship is separated from the second stage, usually happen at about 8 to 10 minutes, actually about 9 minutes also.
Pretty soon then.
Very, very, very soon it will happen. So you can see that the second stage works much longer than the first stage.
Yes.
Although the thrust of the engine is much smaller than the first stage, but it works longer. And also, as I have mentioned, it used a rocket engine called the YF-115, which also used a combination of kerosene and also liquid oxygen. It has very high performance.
But is the propellant pollutive? I mean,
Kerosene and liquid oxygen. With kerosene as the fuel and liquid oxygen as the oxidizer. Well, you see that our Long March 5, the 4 boosters of Long March 5 use the similar engines of the first stage of the Long March 7. So we use the same engine for different launch vehicles, which can bring us more practical, more reliable choices.
So everything is going on very smoothly so far. And as we can see, something not very relevant to the launch, actually, we can see all the staff there at the commanding center wearing masks because China is experiencing COVID
pandemic
right now, and they're observing the restrictions very strictly?
Well, we can still see the video, get the data from the camera mounted on the second stage,
Right.
and also the working of 2 of the 4 engines.
So this camera is attached on the rocket or on Tianzhou 4?
It's on the rocket.
On the
if
rocket.
you can see the flame. Yes. So you know that the transmitting video is always a relatively different task for the communication system. So we can see the very clear video to monitor the working status of the 4 rocket engines.
The flame is so beautiful right now, if you can see it.
Exactly,
And,
especially at night.
Exactly. Well, the propellant, I'm still curious to know, are they going to cause any pollution in the universe?
And there is SECO, second stage cutoff, and second stage ignition separation.
Hear the voice that the 6 engines are already shut down.
Right, so the Long March 7 rocket is letting go of the Tianzhou 4 capsule, is it?
Well, we can hear the voices in the flight control center. Okay, so the Tianzhou 4 is already separated from the
Right.
launch vehicle.
Now
And the
Tianzhou 4
next
is
step
making
will
its
be
way
the
alone in
unfolding of
orbit.
the solar panels.
Among so many stars. Oh my God, so beautiful.
Yes, it's already
Does someone want to tell her that this is an animation?
high.
Yeah, it's like science fiction. And its orbit
Orbit
landing has just confirmed.
Well, we still need to check the measurement. We need to measure the orbital parameters to confirm that it is
So
okay.
many
You know that
stars.
because today we need to rendezvous with the Tiangong space station, so the accuracy of the orbit is very important. So we need to check that, and also, as I mentioned, we also have a very critical step to unfolding the.
If you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of the Tianzhou 4 launch from Wenchang, China. What a launch. The launch was successful. The Tianzhou 4 spacecraft, now 700 seconds into flight, is making its way into low Earth orbit, having completed its separation, is on its way to the Tiangong space station, China's space station, for their 3rd ever resupply mission. If you haven't watched today's launch, definitely rewind it. Listen to the commentary. You're in for a treat. It's been quite unique coverage of a launch there. But Tianzhou 4 successfully launched from China in orbit, making its way. We're waiting for solar panel deployment, which should be occurring here shortly. We're going to take some time, answer your questions. Tag us at the Launchpad with those questions, and we'll be answering them live. And we'll go from there. Baba Booey says my Windows screensaver has more stars. I agree, it probably does. Mine does as well. But great to have you all here. Today's launch was of a Long March 7th, only the 8th time one of these rockets has been launched into orbit. And we'll be keeping updates onto this. We're not 100% sure on when docking will be. China hasn't confirmed that, nor will there be live coverage for it. But when we hear more, we will bring those updates. But we're going to wait to see what more that we get shown here from Chinese government. It's very rare to get this type of coverage. There is solar panel deployment confirmed.
Now the solar panel is fully deployed, is fully extended, reaching 14.9 meters. Can we call it success now? Or too early?
As I mentioned, we still need the measurement of the orbital parameters. We will get the data from the vehicle and also from the ground station. We will analyze the data and get the accurate result. And it will be the success of launch will be announced by the commander of the Wenchang spacecraft launch site.
You know what, Professor Yang, I'm really envious of Tianzhou 4 right now. It can fly in the outer space, in the universe so freely.
And please
alone.
notice that there are many delicious food inside this Tianzhou 4.
Well, I don't know if I'm envious about the food there. I think the food on the Earth is better, but Yeah.
And also, but also, you know that.
Okay, they're gonna keep talking about food and how it flies freely in the universe, yet it's still under control of gravity and Earth. That's okay. But there we go. Solar panel deployment confirmed. We're still waiting to hear those confirmations of a good orbit from the equipment, so that's why we're listening in.
Out of my expectation. It's out of my expectation. The food varieties and the qualities and flavor. I mean, according to the feedback of the previous crew, they're pretty good actually.
Yes, you know that Mr. Zhai Zhigang is also like you. He's from the northeast China, so there are many food chosen for him. I believe that you will also like that.
You've told
and also,
our audience of my secret already.
Is my friend, and she's a girl, so she is more like sweet food.
Right. So they can suit for all the food preferences of all the crew members. That's amazing.
Yes. But also we need to consider about the nutrition, and also very important to ensure the calcium and to prevent the loss of bones during their long-term residence in the station.
Although the Tianzhou 4 is flying in outer space now alone, it carries a lot of cargoes for different functions, for different uses, and I just saw a report that actually there are more than 200 packages. Is there a way to make it easier for the crew members, 3 or 4 at most, to find the things that they need?
Yes, first, you know that for different type of cargoes, the belt on the package it has different colors. There are blue, there are yellow, and there are other colors. So they can have the classification based on the colors. By the way, for the details inside the package, they also have there are QR codes on the package. So you know that our Shenzhou crews have their mobile phones. Each crew have 2 mobile phones, so they can scan the QR code and find what's exactly inside the package.
Then how long will Tianzhou 4 stay there? I guess the crew wants it to stay as long as possible, so they can have a big or extra room to stock their stuff.
Actually speaking, the Tianzhou 4 cargo ship will dock to the rear docking port of the Tiangong space station today, after several hours, and it will stay at the rear docking port for about 6 months. You see that before the arrival of the Shenzhou 15 crew, just at the end of this year, it must leave the station and freeze the rear docking port for the Tianzhou 5 cargo ship. So it will stay there for about half a year.
So its eventual fate, will it like Tianzhou 2, which was burnt in the Earth's atmosphere?
Yes, so the final destination of the Tianzhou 4 will deorbit to the, actually speaking, the South Pacific region. Because you know that at what we call the Nemo point in the South Pacific, at this point, there are no any people and residents there, and also there are no airplanes and ships usually in this area. And the nearest land is about 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers away from that point. So that is the ideal place for the deorbiting. So there is no exception that the cargo ships from the other countries, such as the Progress, such as the ATV, HTV, and also Cygnus, are also deorbited to this point.
And Tianzhou 4 is carrying cargoes that can support our astronauts or taikonauts to live in the space station in a core module for 6 months. Does that mean that we have a spoiler alert right now that the next crew will stay there for 6 months?
Absolutely. So the
It's not a spoiler. China announced a few months ago that their next crew will launch in June of this year, so just over a month from now, and they will be staying on board for 6 months. They will be joined by the third crew of the space station for a couple days to a week overlap, actually. So there'll be 6 people on board the station, which is built for 3, and then the second crew will return home. If you're just joining us, though, a successful launch of Tianzhou 4 aboard a Long March 7 rocket, the third resupply mission for the China space station. As much as we're loving this commentary, there's not much more that we're going to be expecting, so we're going to get it wrapping up here. So send in your last questions in the chat. Take us at the Launchpad. If you haven't yet, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage, exclusive interview, press event, and more. Here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And you've been watching our live launch coverage of Tianzhou 4 and the Long March 7. This is Zach from TOP Network Studios signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Media that he is still keeps the training. Just several days before, he's also experienced the G forces to 8G. So that shows still in a very good status. But you know that he is now also the deputy chief designer of China Manned Space program. Technically speaking, he is still keeps the training, so it is possible for him to have another mission. But we can still, you know, that's the Shenzhou 14 and the Shenzhou 15 crew has already been chosen. So what you mentioned, the possibility maybe in the later, technically speaking.
So technically speaking, he is possibly the second going to complete. He's the second space mission, manned space mission.
Exactly, and also you know that he often mentioned that he is a little bit jealous about his crewmate. You know that he stayed in Shenzhou 5 spaceship for 24 hours, which is only several cubic meters, a very narrow place and not very comfortable. But his colleagues can reach the Tianhe 1, and the Tianhe itself has inner volume about 50 cubic meters, much wider than the Shenzhou spaceship. So